A game for all is a game for none. A wise man once said this very recently. And since then, the statement has always stuck with me. Sure, the idea of pleasing everyone being impossible was always known, but nobody had ever expressed that feeling in a single sentence so effectively. A game for all is a game for none, sure. But what happens when a company follows this ideal and does a complete 180? We've seen it countless times before. Tarkov, Overwatch, Apex, Siege, Star Wars Battlefront, Destiny 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Diablo 4, and so many more. And what do all these games have in common? What is the driving force that completely changed the way that people perceive them? That, my friends, is greed. Loot boxes, skins, teaching kids how to gamble, overpriced DLC with lackluster content. These shady corporate business practices are plaguing the gaming sphere. It doesn't help that investor companies are buying out studios like Gearbox and Volition like it's real estate, corporatizing the gaming space. Developers are no longer seen as artists, but only as a replaceable worker. I wouldn't doubt if developers tried to use AI to make a game at this point at the sole motivation of it saving them millions of dollars. I ask myself, how blind and out of touch do you have to be to realize that people don't enjoy shit products? Then again, people buy Call of Duty every single year, so whose fault really is it? Theirs or yours? Well, the answer? Both. Let's talk about a very specific game and the development team that I'd like to put on blast today. Hunt Showdown and the Crytek team. In my opinion, Crytek is by far one of the greediest and lazy gaming developers I've ever seen. Instead of yapping, I'll show you some facts and you can come up with your own conclusions at the end of the video. Arrowhead Game Studios. This studio is responsible for the hit game Helldivers 2, and the game today still has a very solid player base that seems to enjoy punishing themselves through unnecessarily hard gameplay, but that's neither here nor there. The team at Arrowhead is valued at about $24 million. Keep that number in mind. The game continuously receives updates and new content on a weekly or monthly basis. The team is also not that big. It has about 121 employees, and that is not that much in comparison to the giants like Epic Games and EA. Crytek is valued at $148 million with 586 employees, and it took them 3 years to release a new map to the game. Sure, there's been some maps here and there over the years, but it took them 6 years to develop 3 maps. What have they been doing all this time? Have they been spending this time working on the map or content additions? You'd think so, right? Skins, heroes, guns, heroes, skins, guns, heroes, all priced at a healthy $10. It's only $10, right? It's not that big of a deal, right? Wrong. Sure, you could justify this by saying, well, Fortnite constantly releases skins for cash. Yeah, well, Fortnite is a free game that continuously changes, adapts, and adds new content on a very, very frequent basis. So charging for skins is a logical method of keeping the game online. It's actually a very smart business model. And they use this money efficiently. They don't waste it. They don't take the money and run. They put the money back into the game. Crytek, on the other hand, the DLC for Hunt itself being $10 is not the problem. It's how frequently these additions are added to the game in comparison to actual new content or fixes to current problems. The game has been virtually the same since 2018. It's 2024 and the game has only released 3 maps. Again, where did all that money go? When your company is making that much money and is responsible for some of gaming's most iconic games like Crysis and the original Far Cry, there is no excuse for taking this long to release new content. The developers are hellbent on creating more DLC to the game with the sole purpose of gaining extra revenue, even if only 100 people buy it, and milking their game to the driest of dry bones. There's no passion here, only greed, and that's pathetic. All the Hunt Showdown fanboys will excuse the developers saying that they have released new content, but I ask again, how frequent is this content being released? How many years will you have to wait for the next map or content drop? 5 years? 6, 7, 10? To be fair, the game is releasing a new update on August 15th. Too bad the update is trash. Here's what $148 million of support to a gaming developer gets you. You get an upgrade to the engine. Wow, that's something that everyone asked for. You get community surveys. Whoa, not like that could have been a thing from release. New map. wow, that's cool. Took you 6 years to develop it when indie devs can release updates on a daily basis while you guys sit in your $10,000 Gucci chairs counting the thousands you made from sitting on your ass laughing at us stupid gamer whales that will buy anything. Guess what? The game lets you play in 4K now. Whoa. Who actually even plays their games in 4K? Unless you've got a supercomputer, which most gamers don't, you're not playing your game at 4K. So it's another useless addition and a waste of effort and a waste of resources. The only type of game you'd want to play in 4K is something story driven like God of War or Ghost of Tsushima, not a competitive FPS. A lot of FPS players will actually lower the graphics settings so that they can perform better. Rainbow Six Siege is a good example of this. Some of the most competitive players lower their graphics down to the bare minimum. So playing a competitive shooter in 4K has virtually no value besides looking pretty. Maybe add more content to the game and significant updates to the gameplay itself? Nah, let's make the game 4K so you can see the lack of effort and top tier resolution. It's as clear as day, people. Indie devs that are making a fraction of what bigger developers make are pumping out content updates to their games completely for free on a very frequent basis, while bigger companies like Crytek develop shit DLC and call it a day. What are the developers at Crytek even doing at this point? Do they even show up for work? To my surprise, the game actually has kept a steady player base throughout its life cycle, and this is where I ask myself, why are people continuously playing a game and supporting it if the developers have displayed clear as day that they don't really care about the game? I'm not saying don't enjoy the game or that it's bad for you to enjoy it. I will never judge a person for playing a game that they love. However, you must be aware that in supporting the game you love so much by continuing to play it, the only thing you are telling the developers is that it is absolutely okay to do the bare minimum and you will still play the game. In the end, you're only supporting your favorite game's inevitable death, not the game's future, because you are indirectly, whether you believe it or not, responsible for enforcing the idea that low effort is perfectly okay and you'll play the game no matter what. Ask yourself, wouldn't the developers kick it into gear and give you everything that you want from your favorite game if the player base stopped playing? If people stop playing a game, the developers of that game are forced to kick it into gear. They're forced to put that effort in. That passion comes back because you know what? Passion makes a good game. But the problem with a lot of gamers today is that nobody realizes that. And I don't know what the cause of that is. And I don't know if I can really blame people themselves for that. But at the end of the day, this type of support only damages the games you love. A lot of gamers will just play the game blissfully unaware that they are supporting a broken system of lackluster content. And this happens with so many games. Apex Legends, for example. All you'll hear from the community of that game is complaints about how the game needs to be fixed, or how the developers are doing everything they can to not fix these issues, or removing additions to the game that everybody universally liked. If that's the case, why are you still playing the game? Why are you still making videos on the game? If all you do is complain about your favorite game, why are you even playing it? If the game is not fun, why are you playing it? By playing the game, aren't you telling the developers that it doesn't matter if they fix it or not? You'll play the game anyways? This should not be our mindset as gamers, guys. We deserve better. Hunt Showdown has the potential to be such an amazing and unique title. This potential is completely squandered on lackluster DLC releases and overall, from what I can assume, poor management at the Crytek team. I do want to state that I'm not bashing gaming developers themselves, the people that actually work on the game. I am bashing the people who manage them. The managers of these game companies care about one thing: numbers. If it doesn't look good on a spreadsheet, the idea goes in the trash. What's even more shocking about this whole thing is that Crytek isn't even owned by investors. They're a private company, so there's almost no excuse here. There's no corporate suits running Crytek, so what's going on at the studio? This can only be speculated on. I tried to do some research on the company itself to make more sense of things, but unfortunately the information is pretty limited. Crytek owns all of their IPs. With millions of dollars of revenue a year, I find it so interesting that Crytek is focused more on low-effort additions rather than full-blown content. I find it even more interesting that players of Hunt Showdown don't talk about this more. I mean, Crytek gave us the Crisis series, which was at the time a revolutionary game for the FPS space in regards to story-driven shooters. It was so unique and had so much soul. You could tell by playing the game that the developers truly cared and they were passionate about this project that they worked on together. Where where did that passion go? It's not surprising that passion can dwindle during days of massive layoffs at major studios. For example, Destiny 2 released its biggest and most profitable DLC in years. And what did Bungie do to thank their devoted team? They fired them. What's going on here, people? This goes much deeper than just Hunt Showdown releasing crap content. There is something truly wrong occurring among gaming developers, and the problem is only going to get worse if gamers don't do or say something about it. That is why we are seeing a rise of these indie titles, because a single person could develop a more polished game than $1 million studio, and that speaks volumes. Let's go through some of the new updates for Hunt Showdown that were mentioned in their recent developer update video. You get changes to your weekly challenge system. In short, they made it so that you can see challenges on the screen or in the pause menu while you play the game, so you don't have to check or remember what challenges you're working on. Ask yourself, is this the new content I wanted since 2018? This kind of change should have been added years ago, guys. Be real. Are we really cool with waiting 6 years for updates to your weekly challenges display on the screen? I will give them this one. They improved the trap placement, allowing you to experiment with the way you place traps now. Putting them on windows and stuff, that's really cool. That's unique. That's a really good idea. Again, $148 million company, 6 years to add this implementation. This is an addition that should have been added either the first or second year after the game's release. I'm not a game developer, but I'll always refer back to indie dev teams that release these kinds of updates faster than you can finish a bowl of ramen. They improved the looting system with the amount of times that you can loot certain items on the map, like health kits. Another addition that shouldn't have taken 6 years. Why did it take 6 years to add this implementation, guys? Come on, really? Improvement to the weapon sights. Why are we still working on weapon mechanics 6 years into the game's life cycle? Updates to weapons in an FPS are always required, yes, but it took 6 years to improve aiming down the sights in a game that is mainly focused on guns. Shouldn't that have been the first thing you guys worked on? Didn't you guys make Crysis and the original Far Cry? They even made Kingdom Come Deliverance, which has one of the most unique sword gameplay I've ever seen in a medieval RPG, and it took them 6 years to improve aiming down the sights. Think about that. Why am I even still asking this question? I already know the answer. Buy my DLC! They improved the sound of guns. Cool. Another addition that changes very little on how the game plays. And finally, fall damage improvements. Good improvement to the gameplay, I'll admit, but a smart indie dev probably would have figured this out in less than a month of their game's release, and probably were already aware of this issue before the final release with plans to fix it. So I'm still gonna trash on it. And those were just some of the updates from the developer video, like this was supposed to be something significant. I don't know what the goal of this video was, and I don't know about you guys, but all I heard was, hey guys, thank you for supporting our game over all these years. Here are some minor changes coming to our biggest update yet. Why did it take us this long to make these small changes? Well, we were busy creating all those heroes and new guns that you guys review so highly on our Steam page. We thank you for your support as we continue to do as little as possible. I think I've made my point loud and clear here, and not much needs to be added to drive that point home. The math is simple. The comparisons are fair. Maybe the problem is greed. Maybe the problem is too many developers on one project makes a mess of a game. Maybe it's mismanagement. Maybe it's something I'm completely unaware of because I'm just a stupid YouTuber at the end of the day. But when you look at the numbers, the publicly available information, and the content of the game itself, and compare it to someone who has way less resources, time, and employees, and they create a passion project that beats games developed by multi-million-dollar companies, nothing else really needs to be said. At this point, if you're even attempting to defend these larger companies with lame excuses, then I'm really sorry to inform you, my friend, but you have just become the primary target of corporate suits, and it's kind of up to you to decide if you're cool with that or not. Me personally, I'm not in the slightest. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I earned your subscription. I tried to make my point as best as I could, but if you disagree, let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear how other people perceive this kind of thing. Till next time, peace.